September Workshop Wednesday, and I'm excited to have everybody here. And as mentioned, this is being recorded. We do this for your benefit and for ours. Of course, there's oftentimes you may want to go back and reference the materials that are covered during these sessions. We are considering this as we're developing a library of topics for you to use as reference and as tools to share with others. And so that's why we do these recordings, and also just an acknowledgement that not everybody can be available at this time on the third Wednesday of every month. And so we do have this being recorded right now. A few items that we want to cover as we start off. First of all, of course, the session today is dispatcher auto and manual vehicle assignments within FleetCommander. And I am John Roodschild, client success representative. And I have bad audio right now, possibly. Can you, let's see if I can mute. That might be the instance on that. Well, as I was saying, my name is John Roodschild, client success representative for Agile Fleet, and I am the one doing our presentation today. Workshop Wednesday is our monthly knowledge-based series. We do this to provide it as a tool to you. The webinars are scheduled monthly on the third Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and your feedback is what helps guide us during this monthly webinar. We definitely want to make these sessions applicable to you and based upon your input. Up to this point, it's been primarily my suggestions to these topics based upon my experience with Indiana University for 10 years. I was the fleet coordinator for the rental fleet for IU. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about is things that I ran into when I was a client of Agile and what I experienced with FleetCommander. But we do want to hear from you. We want to hear what your needs are. And so we are interested in hearing from you. We ask that you respond to our survey. There's one that's in the link that's in the chat provided for you. You can use that. And also with the follow-ups on these sessions, we do present you with the opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas. A couple of items as we move forward. Again, this is being recorded. A copy of the recording and the slides will be available for download via SharePoint by tomorrow. Use of your video camera is optional. And just because I'm kind of self-conscious, I'm going to go ahead and use that for myself likewise. I'm going to go ahead and be camera off for most of this session. That way you can focus on the slides and you don't have to see the reflection off of my shiny head. Please mute your mic during the webinar. That way, if there are questions that you want to ask, you are welcome to share that through the chat window. Just click on that and you can send those questions. I will try to make sure to monitor those questions as they roll in and address those. We will have a question and answer section at the end of the presentation. So today, as we are considering the various ways to assign vehicles within FleetCommander, the agenda of what we're going to look at is the idea that there are the various options, including auto assignment, manual assignment, and dispatcher assignment. I found that when I used FleetCommander initially at IU, that I kind of used some of this terminology interchangeably, and was kind of confusing whenever I started looking at the various configurations within FleetCommander in regards to what truly is considered by us a manual assignment versus that which is the action that's taken by a dispatcher, and also what it takes to have auto assignments through FleetCommander. We highly recommend as best practice that you try to automate the system as much as possible, and that falls heavily upon vehicle assignments. We're going to take a look at a vehicle assignment flow chart that we have that kind of helps you see how what FleetCommander goes through to make these vehicle assignments. And these the steps are based upon the various configurations within FleetCommander. So we're going to also take a look at those configurations And then we're going to also look at the different ways that you as dispatchers or admins can assign or move vehicles to reservations. You know, there's oftentimes the need after a reservation has been assigned a vehicle to go back and to reassign that. And so we'll look at the various ways of doing that within FleetCommander. And then we're also going to do a little bit of troubleshooting. The things that you can check when you can't assign a vehicle. This is something that we hear often through support, is that a vehicle can't be assigned. And there are various reasons on why that may be the case. More times than not, it comes down to configuration. And so that's, we're going to walk through the most common things to check. That way, you can take a look and see if you can better understand why a vehicle that you believe should be available to be assigned to a reservation is simply not being found. And then we'll wrap up with the questions and answers and a few other sundry items. So just a general overview, a high-level overview in regards to auto assignment, manual assignment, and dispatcher assignment. Auto assignment, and when we talk about auto assignment, really it's best to pair that along with auto approval, because if you don't do that, then you're really not getting the full benefit of the automation. But auto assignment with auto approval, it's where the system selects the vehicles. It's based upon many factors, as we'll discuss. Part of it, of course, in regards to the reservation itself. But the process is, in essence, your end user makes the reservation. The system then, based upon their vehicle profiles in the reservation, will select a vehicle, and then the system automatically approves of that. The other option that is available is manual assignment. This is, again, user selects the vehicle. Sometimes we think of manual assignment as being what we as admin do. And there are some instances where we as admin can do manual assignments, but in the true sense of the matter, it is an end user interaction with FleetCommander. It's where the user makes their reservation. The user selects the specific vehicle that they want to use from out of the vehicles that are presented to them based upon, again, their reservation and their profile and their asset profile. And then the system will either approve of it because you have it set up as an automated approval, or you as an admin or dispatcher will make that vehicle final approval. And then there is the dispatcher assignment. A dispatcher assignment is where you as an admin, you as a dispatcher, are going through the process of picking and selecting the vehicle and then going and approving of that reservation. It can be based upon a reservation that was entered by an end user. So it could be either the user or the admin dispatcher who makes that initial reservation, but it is solely up to the admin, the dispatcher, to select the vehicle and then make the final approval of that reservation. So what are some of the aspects in regards to auto assignment? With auto assignment in FleetCommander assigns the vehicle, as we mentioned, to the reservation request. The process occurs automatically, and it's without any manual intervention when configured properly, and that there are vehicles that are match up to what's being requested and being requested by whom. Along with this, permissions and auto assign configuration must be enabled and a vehicle available that matches those items. It's a flexible permission structure. It ensures only the appropriate person's site usage types and vehicles are used by the auto assign function. And if a level of auto assign is not enabled, what ultimately will occur is that the admin dispatcher vehicle assignment will have to fall upon them, and the approval is enacted as a fallback scenario for the system's use. So that portion of, again, it's not that the reservation gets lost or necessarily refused. It's simply that the way it's configured is that it will fall upon someone within your organization with admin access or dispatcher access to pick the vehicle and approve of that reservation. Using auto assignment is the best practice for key control systems. If you're not using auto assignment and auto approve, your key control system actually is not going to function properly, particularly if you're using grab and go in that situation. They won't have the ability to go to your kiosk and make a reservation in the moment. And also, if you are allowing for off-hour reservations, if you don't use auto assignment and auto approval, then there could be reservations that end up simply sitting and pending during your off hours when you're not working or someone from your staff not working, but somebody is trying to get a vehicle, and under normal circumstances, they would be allowed to, under your policy, to get vehicles during that time. So definitely for key control systems, auto assignment with auto approval is what is best. Doing this just across time really frees up admin resources and allows you to focus on other tasks. And it will optimize the utilization of the fleet, which is one of the reasons you're using FleetCommander, is so that you can best use the vehicles that you have and have it optimized. Now, that's different from manual assignment. Manual assignment is almost the exact opposite in regards to that. That's kind of in many ways going back to the old way of system for some of y'all, where people just simply came and picked the vehicles they wanted without any regard in regards to who might be needing it later on, who may, what vehicle has been used or most recently or has not been used. Manual assignment is basically the antithesis of what we're trying to accomplish here at Agile Fleet and to help you with your fleet. That being said, it is an option because there are some situations that it's necessary. It ultimately gives your end user, the requesters, the latitude to select their own vehicle, and the process occurs via the end user's interaction. Permissions and manual assignment configuration must be enabled, and a vehicle, again, must be available that fits those configurations. And you can configure this to be approved either through auto approval or through admin dispatch approval. If you're going to do manual assignments, I would highly recommend that you always allow for some oversight from your staff in regards to those vehicle assignments, because ultimately that would be your last ability to curtail cherry picking, where cherry picking should not happen. And it is good for situations where the drivers have specific requirements, preferences. I think oftentimes in regards to this is what you would want to do if you have someone within your administration or someone within the president of the company or someone that does have specific needs and it's actually a specific vehicle that they are going to prefer. Having the ability to pick that vehicle during the reservation process covers that. But it does allow for unmitigated cherry picking, as we mentioned, and it is poor vehicle utilization on that is the result. And then dispatcher assignment. This is what gives you as the admin, as the dispatcher, the full latitude of using and selecting vehicles. I actually, when I was at IU, this is what I used. I pushed back every time that Matt and others from Agile would ask me, why are you not using our auto assignment capabilities? And I basically said, because I like picking the vehicles out. I like assigning them. To me, through the manage fleet screen with those red and green blocks that we'll see in a little bit, I consider it as putting together a Tetris puzzle to me, and I enjoyed it. But it was very labor intensive. It was time consuming, and it really was not best practice on that. And I see that, and I admit that now. But again, I liked the process. I liked the ability to pick out the vehicles. And dispatcher assignment, that's what that is. It requires the admin or dispatcher their attention at each step. You still have to have settings configured within FleetCommander. FleetCommander can help you in selecting and will help you in selecting the vehicles that are optimized based upon a selector that we'll show a little bit later. But it ultimately comes down to you making that selection yourself and what time you want to finally approve of that reservation. It can be used with key control. That's definitely not recommended, and it's more commonly used without key control. So, vehicle assignment flowchart. How does this all work? Well, once the your site is configured, and as y'all start off with, as new clients of Agile, our implementation team would have gone through and configured your site for many of the settings that we're going to talk about today. But once you make a determination on how you want your vehicles to be assigned, which vehicles you're going to make available to go where or to whom, or then the system gathers that information from out of the user profile, the vehicle profile, and also the reservations, and puts together an optimized choice of vehicles. So as it starts off with the assignment flowchart, a request comes in. You get that reservation, and FleetCommander checks to see if auto assign is enabled. If it is, and it's enabled across the three necessary divisions, site usage, driver, and vehicle, then what will occur is it will move to the next step, and FleetCommander starts looking for a vehicle that matches the requirements that are found within the reservation. If the vehicle was found, then FleetCommander assigns that vehicle. And then the next step, FleetCommander will then check and see if automatic approval is available. If that is enabled across the board, again across usage type, driver, the specific driver that made that request, and the vehicle that FleetCommander has designated to assign to this, then the system will approve of the reservation, and through automated emails, confirmation is sent to the requester. Now, some of the things that could occur, though, is that there may be vehicles available. There may be vehicles, the auto assign is enabled, but you get to the point that one or more of the driver, usage type, or vehicle are not set up for auto approve. In that situation, what happens is the system will then send that request with that vehicle type, the vehicle that was selected for the reservation by the system. It will be sent to the administrator, and you will have to take that step to approve of the reservation manual. This is when a reservation falls into your pending status. That you see that through your dashboard. Another scenario where the system will stop down in regards to actually fully automating the process of vehicle assignment is if one or more of your usage type, the driver making the request, or the vehicle, that there's no vehicle that would be shown enabled for auto assign. In that situation, what will happen is that the request will go into pending again, and you will have to assign a vehicle and approve of the reservation manually at that point, because there was something here that blocked down that process. Another scenario would occur is that FleetCommander searches for a matching vehicle, and there's definitely no vehicle found. Everything is booked. That there's some sort of item there that you don't have the right vehicle type, or there may be a other discrepancy within the reservation. At that point, what occurs is that FleetCommander will then go and check to see what the setting is for when no vehicles are available for auto assign. The user can, and the system has two options in that scenario. What happened is that they're presented with this cancel the request, or cancel it and make a similar request. So what that means is that the reservation comes in, there's no vehicle that's found. Your end user has the immediate ability, if this setting is selected and configured, to simply just cancel the request and be done with the whole process. Of course, that's not what we really want them to do. The other option would be for them to cancel the request and make a similar request based upon what they had already entered, but modifying that, maybe a date, modifying the vehicle type, something like that. In that situation, what happens is the vehicle request is submitted again and goes back through that whole process. course, it may be that you don't choose to use the cancel the request or cancel it and make a similar request, and you choose instead to use the cancel request or submit it for manual assignment. In this situation, again, the end user has the option to outright cancel the request, or it will go into that pending status for you to actually take a look at that and then make some suggestions on that. That's the flow chart for
I just went underneath this thing.
the assignment. Don, can you check on the microphones?
Yes, I just took care of it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So the flow chart, all that, as I mentioned, really comes together based upon the configurations that you have within FleetCommander. And these are what you need to be mindful of as you go forward in deciding how you want FleetCommander to assign vehicles. Automatically, the option for manual, give the option to do this as a dispatcher assignment. And there's the items that you need to look at. I guess the first one you want to consider and be mindful of is that there's the vehicle optimization chart. This is found within Configure Site Settings Site Vehicle tab. You have the options of having FleetCommander assign vehicles based upon a number of different options. If you wanted to, you could have them assigned alphabetically. That doesn't make much sense in this here. It helps you, though, if you're looking through your managed fleet or managed vehicle screen, you can look at your vehicles alphabetically. But for optimization, not really a good choice. But you do have then highest last mileage, lowest last mileage, oldest model year, earliest mileage date, latest mileage date. Parking spaces ascending and parking spaces descending. What we recommend, and I think what most people, most of our clients use, is the earliest mileage date. What this is it looks and see what vehicle has their mileage was updated the farthest back. Think of it this way: you have a vehicle that is coming back on Thursday, you have a vehicle coming back on Friday. Monday, you have a request for that vehicle type for a minivan. That request comes in, and you set earliest mileage date as the preferred optimizer. What that will do is it'll look at those two vehicles, the Thursday return and the Friday return, and it will go and choose the Thursday return date, because it is assuming and that is the vehicle that has been sitting the longest on your lot. That is the earliest mileage date. That gets the first in, first out is basically the idea behind that. I used lowest last mileage at IU. I wanted to see what was my vehicle that had the lowest mileage, because we had some pretty high mileage vehicles and I didn't want those to be assigned to reservations. It's your choice. And again, that configuration is really what is going to be what drives ultimately the vehicles that are first selected to match reservations. And that's under Configure Site Settings, Site and Vehicle tab. The other thing that needs to be configured is the user profile. As we mentioned before in that flow chart, it takes a look at user profile, it looks at usage type, and it looks at vehicle type. And we're going to see with these next three slides what that looks like. Ultimately, you have to go into within each of your user profiles through, you can go manage user's username and scroll down to the additional information section, which is about halfway down within a user profile. You'll see these options: eligible for manual sign, eligible for auto sign, eligible for automatic approval. You've got to pick one of these in order to activate them. If you set everything at no, then it all falls back to the admin dispatcher assignments. Everything rolls in for you to make that decision. The same way, you find that same menu items within the vehicle asset profiles. So you go in there and determine, if the vehicle KR2361, you want to be one that people can cherry pick and be presented as for manual assignment, well, then you can click yes. And then if somebody has that permission within their profile, then they'll be able to select that vehicle. And we'll show that selection process in just a moment. But none of these settings within the user profile or the vehicle profile matter unless they're actually configured at the site level usage type. When you go into your configurations, you click on configuration site setting, you select one of your sites and you go into the reservation tab, you're going to see again a section that outlines the eligible for manual sign, eligible for auto sign, automatic approval, and gives the options of activating those. This has to be done at the site level, and it has to be done for each of your usage types that you want to configure in that fashion. So if you have 5 sites within FleetCommander that you're managing, and within each site there's your daily trips, if you want auto assign to be available to your drivers at each of those sites, you have to go into each site and then configure the daily trips within each of those sites. So you have the eligible for auto assign is one of the options. You have eligible for automatic approval. That's the other one. As I mentioned, starting off initially, if you're using auto assign, you're going to most likely want to have auto approval and activated also. That makes those two work together and takes you as an admin or dispatcher out of the process unless something occurs where, as we showed through the flow chart, it stops things down. For the situation where there's auto approval is not selected, this would be the situation. As I mentioned, you would go into a reservation, a vehicle was assigned to the reservation, but it still requires admin or dispatcher action with the approved request. Then you have your manual assigns. There are a couple of different stages that are here in regards to your manual assign. When you start to open this up to let people pick their own vehicles, we still want to give you a little bit of control over the matter. This again is a site level configuration, has to be done at each site, and it has to be done for what each usage type that you want to enable that. Configure site setting, site reservation tab. And the choices that you have for manual assign. If you mark yes, there's ultimately 5 options to choose from. Only 2 of them really make a difference in regards to achieving what you want to achieve, i.e. letting your end user pick a vehicle. You can have it where they don't see the available vehicles at all, which is really counterintuitive. If you don't let them see it, they can't select it, so it doesn't really give them the ability to pick a vehicle. Same with seeing the available vehicles. You can see a vehicle, as we'll show in a moment, without reservation mouse over or with a reservation mouse over. But ultimately, for a manual assign, giving that a person the ability to pick their vehicle will require choosing select available vehicles. And you can do that again, either without or with reservation mouse overs. And then similar, if you decide not to give them the ability to choose, you can give them the option of seeing what vehicles are available. And so they can kind of anticipate, what vehicles are there today, but ultimately it falls back upon they're only seeing it, and the system is going to automatically assign the vehicle to them based upon the criteria within their reservation. So what does this all mean? Well, for the first thing that's going to end up happening is that it affects what a person sees as they're entering their reservation. When they get to the stage of entering their information into FleetCommander, if you are able to see the vehicles, then there is going to be this message that appears on the end user's reservation as they're placing that reservation. It'll say view vehicle availability. They have to click this. If they don't activate it, they're not going to get to see what vehicles are available. If you want them to actually select their vehicle, then when choosing to select available vehicles, this is the message that's going to appear on the reservation form: select specific vehicle. Just the other day, I was working with one of our clients, and there was a question on why was the vehicle not appearing? Why can they not? More specifically, why can my users pick their own vehicle? Well, what it was is ultimately is that they had selected the C and not the select option on that. So it was only presenting the vehicles which were available and not actually giving the choice. And the next coming screens will actually show you what that looks like when that happens. A tip before we move to that, though, the user must select, again, must select the select view and view or view in order for the vehicles to be presented. Otherwise, auto assign or dispatcher assignment will occur. Just always please bear that in mind. So what does this look like? Well, if it is a C, the vehicles, then this is what's going to happen. They'll be presented with this. They have to check it, and then they will get the managed fleet screen, a snapshot of that, and they will see which vehicles are available. But again, this is only seeing them. It does not allow them to actually select. That is, along with it though, the view that we saw on this previous screen is this is the C without mouse over. And in most cases, you're probably not going to want to use the mouse over. The mouse over means that if somebody is looking at what vehicles are available, they're going to be able to see who has the vehicle. And I've had some clients actually tell me, we need to turn this off because I have people calling up the person that has it scheduled and asking to get that vehicle themselves. So not one that's, it's there, it's a good, it has a purpose in some cases, but probably not most. And so without mouse over is probably the way to go if you're using the option for just seeing the available vehicles, but also, and more in regards to selecting a specific vehicle. As you can see, again, this is without the mouse overs. And what happens is that, unlike the previous screen, there is actually a radio buttons here that allows selection of the vehicle that is available. In this situation, the Cobalt is not available, the Tesla is. And this is what it looks like with mouse over. Again, use that judiciously. Don't there may be privacy issues where you are not allowed to show that information. So just be mindful when using that configuration. The situation that we mentioned in regards to no vehicles are available, what's going to happen? Is a reservation going to be canceled? Is it going to be remade, or is it going to be submitted into you as a dispatcher and admin for selection? And this is where you would go to do that. Again, it's a site level, has to be done each site, each usage type. And you can go in and make those selections for the eligible for automatic approval. And you can refer back to the flow chart in regards to what happens there. You know, you have to cancel the request or submit it for manual assignment. You know, that will give you that option, or the cancel and make a similar request instead. So that again refers back to ultimately your end users, your requesters, their ability to make vehicle requests and reservations and picking their own vehicles or not picking their own reservations. Now, in regards to dispatchers and admins, we have, like I like to say, we have greater control over FleetCommander. That's by design. You know, there are portions of FleetCommander that are only accessible to your end users. That's based off from the welcome screen. You got your information menu, got your vehicle menus for making reservations, and some of our clients make reservations from the welcome screen. And this is a topic we'll cover on another workshop Wednesday about making reservations and the purposes of and where to make them. This is ties into that, but the focus is more in regards to what happens after the reservation has been received. And there are different ways and places within FleetCommander as dispatchers, as admins, that you can go and assign a vehicle to a reservation or move a vehicle from off one reservation to another. The different places would be under Manage Reservations, Manage Fleet, and Vehicle Usage tab. We're going to take a look at those. The Manage Reservations, you can access this in one of two ways. From your dashboard, you can click on Manage and then click on Reservations, and it'll then present you with this screen based upon the filters and the defaults that you have set from up here. As you can see, there's this reservation that we have that we're going to look at in a moment. But there's also another way of accessing this, and this is through the dashboard again, but using maybe the pending requests or the change request or a canceled, in some cases, canceled request may be a way to get you into a reservation. The pending request and change request would be where you're actually the function of vehicle assignments in this case. But once you get here, you click on the you use the edit button, which is this car icon, to make your changes. It pops you into the Manage Reservations screen. It allows you at that point to take a look and see what vehicles are options for assignment based upon the reservation that's received and the time frames of it, et cetera. And in this case, there's a problem with this Tesla. There's a late for pickup, probably that maybe the vehicle is not working and needs to be swapped out. But while you're within this Manage Reservations, you can go and you can click on top of the screen for vehicles. It will then show you the available vehicles. In this case, if you had a long, several vehicles to choose from, there would be a longer list here, and you select the alternate vehicle and then click Assign Vehicle. That's assigning through Manage Reservations. That's a place where you can make those changes, assign vehicles, and also using a technique that I'm going to show you within the next portion. You can actually select vehicles and change vehicles within the chart here. So as you see here, we made that change, and there was a switch in regards to the vehicle assignment. In case you have not considered this before, the green blocks and the red blocks all represent time frames. In this case, we're looking at what's called the hour view. You see here, it presents you 24 hours worth of 60-minute blocks. So you can drill down and see exactly within a day or 2 days how many reservations might be on a particular vehicle. In some cases, you might be able to double or even triple assign a vehicle to multiple people based upon the time frame between the reservation start and stops. Hour view allows you to do that. If you need to look at a longer view, day view would actually change this to 14-day 24-hour blocks. And so you can see the course of 2 weeks how a vehicle was being used from day to day. But it wouldn't show you specifically within each of those days its utilization if it spans across multiple trips. That's what the hour view is for. So the other way to work with reservations and moving vehicles and assigning vehicles is through the Managed Fleet. Again, this view is similar to our previous screen. It makes use of, like I said, the Tetris blocks, is like I like to describe them. Red being that a vehicle is assigned to that specific vehicle. That vehicle is assigned to a specific reservation. Green means it's free. You also have a series of indicators here. This LP is a late for pickup. The LR is late for return. There's actually a legend here that I discovered and didn't realize was here until way too late in my career at IU, that describes what each of these curtails. And so in this situation, you can you can make changes to the reservation here within Managed Fleet and also within Managed Reservations by clicking on the specific reservation. In doing so, what ends up happening is that a pop-up menu comes up and gives you the options of changing the reservation or looking specifically at that reservation that you clicked on. If you have the radio button hit as change vehicle and hit submit, what ends up happening is you're presented through this view the vehicle options that fall and can be chosen. In this situation, you see the two other vehicles other than the Cobalt that's currently assigned to. You pick which one that you want, and then it shifts it again for you. So we go from the Cobalt back to the Tesla. Another way of doing this is through the managed vehicles. This is the third way. You go through the manage menu, click on vehicles, and then it will present you with your list of vehicles that you have in your fleet. You can select one if you know that you need to work with a specific vehicle. And what's presented here is based upon your defaults and your filters that are found up on top. And as you click on the one you want to edit, it'll take you into your vehicle record, your asset record, and there's a usage tab here. By clicking on the usage tab, you're going to see every reservation that has ever been assigned to that particular vehicle. And you're able to click on those confirmation numbers. User profiles actually has the very same tab. And in that case, it will show every vehicle assigned to a specific user. And you can, in this same fashion, you go in through that way and make changes to vehicle assignments by clicking on this same confirmation number. In doing so, that you're presented again, very much with what we've seen before. In this case, it drops you into the reservation. You have the option to click on the change vehicle, and then you go through that process again. Same as with the managed reservations, the managed fleet. You just select the vehicle that you need that you want to assign to this and make those changes. That brings us to things to check when you can't assign a vehicle to a reservation. And what that would be, well, there's several reasons. And ultimately, it all comes back down to configuration. It all comes back down to, is your system configured properly? And in most cases, if you're not finding something, it will end up being because of one of these configurations or settings is simply not matching up with the vehicle that you feel that it should match up to. So, we suggest that you take a look at each of these. First of all, it can come down to just seeing if the vehicle is even available based upon what's found within the managed fleet. You can go into managed fleet, enter the asset name, and just take a look and see, is there a reservation on this? If it's there's a reservation on it and it's within the time frame that reservation is being asked, the reservation you're trying to fill is needing a vehicle, well, then the system is doing what it's supposed to do and is not presenting that to you because that vehicle truly is not available, even though you might in the back of your mind or think that it is. It has been accounted for within the system. Part of it also could fall in regards to the end buffer. To help you in managing your fleet, we have within FleetCommander configuration that is an end buffer. What the idea is to put some space between when a vehicle comes in and when that vehicle goes back out. You may have some procedures, vehicles may be cleaned. There may be other issues that you just simply don't want a reservation to come in at 1 p.m. and then go out at 1:05, or at least you don't want the system to assign it for that. So that's what the end buffer does. It will build some time between your reservations to allow you to the process to occur. So, in this illustration here, the vehicle returns at 12. There's a 60-minute buffer, which means that any reservation that might come in up into and until that vehicle returns, the system is not, FleetCommander is not consider the reservation, the vehicle A to be assigned to reservation 2. So where is that found? Well, again, it's a site setting. It is for each site, but not specific to usage types, but in this case, but just the site in general. You go to site settings, edit site, reservation tab, and then end buffer. And as you can see here, there's that 60-minute end buffer to give you that time to work between when a vehicle comes back and when a vehicle goes back out. You can, however, as admins, again, being admins, have the all-powerful access to FleetCommander, you can override buffers. And so be mindful of the various places where that ignore buffers appears. While entering a reservation, you can choose to ignore the buffers when you go to submit the request or to submit and make similar. That's a place that you have as admins the ability to go. Also, you can, within the reservations, when you modify, you have that option for ignore buffers. When assigning or changing vehicles, as we saw earlier, when we stepped through that, there is the ignore buffers. And those are the places that you find for ignoring those buffers. Again, what that means is that even though you have a 60-minute buffer between reservations normally that the system has to consider, as an admin, you can make the system ignore that, and you can put a reservation right at 105 after it returns, the vehicle returns at 101 for a previous reservation. So always check buffers. That may be the reason why the vehicles are not being assigned. Another one is usage types. They have to match. The usage type has to match within the driver profile and the vehicle profiles. Here we have a driver that has daily rental. They make a reservation for a daily rental, and the system looks, and the one that you're thinking should be assigned to it actually only is configured for long-term. So in that situation, FleetCommander is not going to pair that reservation up with that vehicle. However, in a situation where the driver has long-term listed within their profile and the vehicle has long-term, then yes, it will and should assign it. So if that checks out, then there's something else that's causing the hang-up. It possibly could be the access groups in this situation. Each driver and each vehicle has access groups. A driver may have only access to standard vehicles, and the vehicle that you're considering or thinking about actually is not configured that way, either on purpose or mistake. And in that situation, it's not going to match those together. However, in a situation where the driver does have heavy lift certification, then they will have access to the heavy lift certified vehicles. The access group, that's the other one you want to consider. Another hang up is options. Options are nice to have. The system you can have them available for people to request various vehicle options like car seats or stow and go or hitch. But the more that you put out there, the more complexity it adds to FleetCommander in trying to find vehicles, and it can rule out some vehicles automatically that ultimately somebody would consider using in a situation. So if it doesn't match up, you think it should, it may be that the reservation came in with a specific request for options. In this case here, somebody asked for a mid-size sedan with a toolbox. Well, you probably don't have any like that, or you might. That the system will only match it up based upon if there's a vehicle that has that found within its profile. The other thing that I found this happened a lot is that the user has selected a higher number of occupants than a vehicle will allow. Here we have a sedan with 10 people. Yeah, I've not seen one of those, although in the 70s, there were some that would see about 7 to 9. 10, not anything that happens any longer that I'm aware of. So this would be the reason why when the system would stop and say, there's no vehicles, there are no sedans for this reservation. And as you go through it, it's because you realize, oh, somehow they've asked for a sedan that has 10 people in it. Be mindful of that with the passenger limits that are within each vehicle profile. Make sure they reflect accurately the true capacity of those vehicles. I've seen oftentimes where somebody would request a 7-passenger van. The type is described as a 7-passenger van. They put in number of occupants, 7 passengers, and there's a whole list of vehicles that say they're 7-passenger vans. However, when you go into the asset profile, they maybe only are marked as having seating 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. So that's a place that you need to check and make sure those are accurate within your assets on that. And so in that situation, if they selected a higher number than it will allow, then it's not going to allow for that vehicle to be assigned. Another one is status is unavailable. This is one that hangs up a lot of people when they're looking at the vehicle, managed vehicle, and they see that the status is listed as available or unavailable. They read that as meaning this vehicle, when it says available, they read that as being a vehicle that should be able to be assigned to a reservation today. Well, first and foremost, available simply means that it's an active vehicle within FleetCommander. Unavailable means that vehicle is inactive for some reason. You've decided you don't want it to be assigned to any reservations, so you mark that as unavailable. Well, oftentimes what will happen is that you may want a vehicle to be able to be assigned to reservations and inadvertently have left it marked as unavailable. So always check to see the status of a vehicle. Go and manage vehicle, go in and check and see, is your vehicle that you're looking at sitting there in front of you, is it truly marked as available within FleetCommander? If it's marked unavailable, it needs to, you need to figure out why it was that way and then correct that. And again, just by looking at manage and vehicles, and if you see a vehicle from this screen that says it's available, again, that's not an indicator that that vehicle is truly one that can be assigned to a reservation at that moment in time, because it may be actually out on the road with another vehicle, on another vehicle assignment. That's why when we first started the troubleshooting, suggest take a look and see the status in regards to the actual use of the vehicle within reservations. Is it something that is going to, is it there and available for use? Another situation that happens, if vehicles are deleted, they're not going to be able to be assigned. The first and last available date are the other items that will make a vehicle not be selectable within FleetCommander. If you have a reservation that is going out today, but you have a first available date that's set up in the future, like in this case on the New Year's Day of next year, then the system is not going to consider this a viable option, because you have told the system it's not a viable option until that day occurs. The nice thing about first available dates is that if you got a bunch of new vehicles that you know are coming in, you've got all the specs on it, you want to get it into FleetCommander, by going in and marking the first available date as a future date, and this can be amended, but as needed. But if you put it as a future date, the system will not assign reservations to that until that date comes and passes. And same situation, if your last available date is in the past, then FleetCommander is not going to assign that vehicle to a reservation if that reservation is for today or for the future. And that is my presentation for the day. And we just are coming up on an hour. Let's see here. Got a couple questions. Jason, nice to know that all the confirmation emails that go out can be customized for said site. So if you have special instructions for a site, your drivers will be aware of it. Absolutely. Those majority of the emails within FleetCommander, when they're specific to reservations, are customizable by the site. Emails that are more that pertain to like welcome emails that are more broad and span across potentially multiple sites. A user might be using more than one of your sites. Those are emails, and there's relatively few of them are an enterprise level setting. And our first and fourth workshop Wednesday was about emails. So if any of y'all want to review that, those sessions, those are going to be accessible to you with the link that we're going to send for today's presentation. And Jason also says, would be nice in the process if we had an option to choose if we want a site to always force the reservation to pending status if there are no vehicles available. Right now, it gives the user a choice to cancel or submit. However, we would like a couple of our sites to just always force the pending status to allow us to see if we have vehicles that we can move around. So in regards to the choice, if there's no vehicle available, and how does that impact the user? You could ultimately, by usage type, not activate auto approve. And that might cover part of the issue here, but maybe not all
Joe,
of it.
this is Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Or John, this is Jason. I can clarify this a little bit. So what we would love to see is, in the process there, you get to the last step, and if there are no, so our system is 95% automated. We have automated approvals, automated everything. However, we do have a couple sites where we get to that final step, and if there are no vehicles available, sometimes our users will just hit cancel, because we've told our users that if there are no vehicles available, that they can just go ahead and use their own personal vehicle and submit mileage. Well, we're trying to control our mileages reimbursements. So we would like some of our highly used sites to be able to say, if there are no vehicles available, don't even give them the option to do that. Just automatically make that a pending now request in the system, because we do have some My Department vehicles that we can occasionally use and move around. But if they hit cancel from that pop-up, that cancels it, and it's done right there. Now they can technically drive their own vehicle and submit mileages, where we would really like those trips to come into the office as a pending status no matter what.
Right, and I believe that there's at least another client of ours that voiced a very similar, if not exactly the same, concern about that option for the users. That change was made in the 5.8 release, and prior to that, there was a little bit different of a process. I'll need to go and take a look and see what we have on our roadmap in regards to if we're looking to refine that procedure, and where it might not allow somebody to cancel. Because yes, I can understand why you wouldn't want them to cancel or have the option in that situation, because you obviously have other options for them, and some people in your case may be itching to try to use personal vehicles and justify it, so they're ready to find whatever way they can justify that. And yeah, by saying there's nothing and here cancel, that definitely seems like a justification on that. So I'll look into that for you, and we'll get back on that with Jason, okay? And Mike says, what if the vehicle was returned earlier? Will the buffer still run after the scheduled time? No, actually, as long as a reservation is checked in with the actual return date, the buffer kicks in for that particular time. And this is where the advantage of having a key control system versus manual dispatch, key to dispatch comes into play, because with the key control system, it's always going to capture the actual return time. Whereas with manual dispatch, out and in, you see there within that dispatch screen the option of either using the original out and in time when you check it in, or using the actual, so the original or the actual. And I've seen too many instances, even within my own fleet, where I wasn't the one checking the vehicle in, but somebody else did, and they chose to check it in with the scheduled return. And in some cases, it might actually be come in days early. And so by all means, it will use the actual return time and not the scheduled return time, as long as it's being logged as such. So, Jason, this is, I would also love to know whose company has Teslas as motorable vehicles. Well, if you saw whose reservation that was, it was Ed's, our president and CEO and founder of Agile Fleet. He apparently selected that as his that does explain it. No, I don't think Ed actually has one, but it's like I used to say when people would walk into my fleet and ask me, "So, what did you give me today? Did you give me the Ferrari?" And my response was, "Sorry, it already got checked out today." So yeah, those are just dummy vehicles. Well, any other questions? If not, let's wrap through the last portions of this. We're right at 3:03. Started a minute late, so we're right at our hour time that I had on the schedule. Tools to help you succeed. We're here to help you. If you need technical support, our staff is dedicated to assisting you. They're experienced. They're based here in the US, and they're there to help you. The best way to contact them is through scsupport@agilefleet.com. In doing so, your needs go immediately into the ticketing tracker, and the clock gets punched, and they're responsible for getting that turned around in X amount of time frame. So you can, by emailing them, that's really the best way. Other issues, just the hows, how best way to use FleetCommander, ways to expanding my use of FleetCommander, things like that. Joe and myself are happy to help you with that. We also are happy to help you promote yourself in regards and be a thought leader. If you have opportunities to share your success within your organization or outside your organization, we'd be happy to assist you with that. We do always encourage you to provide feedback to us through the Agile surveys, including the CS survey, which is sent out monthly, and then also the Workshop Wednesday survey that is going to be sent out with the link to this presentation. Please share your ideas. It helps us to serve you better, makes us a stronger company. If you're able to serve as a thought leader, as a reference, please let Joe or myself know your interest in doing so, or participating in our webinars like this, or our user conferences. We do have other online resources besides these presentations, including our blogs, and we have white papers and case studies. If you want to also be a part of that and do a case study, we definitely would love to shout your success from the hills. Workshop Wednesday. This slide right here shows what we've covered so far. We are going to pause this presentation for next month because our user conference is going to be going on in the month of October. So we're not going to do a Workshop Wednesday, but we're going to pick it back up in November, and we're going to do something a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on basic trainings in FleetCommander. Our implementation team, when you're a new client, steps you through the various stages of FleetCommander and how to use it. But of course, there's often turnover within organizations and fleets. And so what we want to do is kind of touch base back with the basics of FleetCommander on that. It will be an extended training session, a little bit longer than our normally scheduled Workshop Wednesdays. And what we plan on doing is offering these type of extended trainings the second month of each quarter. So that will be November in this case. And what will be different on this too is we're planning on presenting this live from a live site. So instead of screenshots, it'll be me or Joe working our way through FleetCommander. And then also the user conference that I mentioned. That's coming up October the 4th through the 6th. There's still time to register, and you can click on this to register once you get this document. And other ways that we can help you, as we've said before, we can help you with refresher training. If you need us to do training specifically for your staff and your needs, we'd be happy to provide that to you. We can do those in 4 and 8 hour training blocks. We can tailor it to your site and your needs. We can do them virtually, like we're doing this. I have had the opportunity to go in person on site to do that. If you want us to come in person, we'd be happy to go ahead and give you work up a quote on what that would cost for us to do that for you. We can help you with your odometer integrity through telematics. We can help you with fuel vendor imports. We have standard billing algorithms. Of course, we can help you with your kiosk and key boxes if you need to expand. And that is all that I have. I appreciate, again, everybody for being here. Thank you, Jason, for the compliment in regards to the presentation today. And remember, y'all, you can go ahead and review this and share this with others. And with that, I'm going to conclude our presentation.